In my research, I wanted to know, how can teachers differentiate instruction to avoid gender biases and encourage equal opportunity for all students, regardless of gender? I took a look at boys versus girls and gender differences in self-esteem. My thesis in my research was that gender biases can lead to lower self-esteem and poor academic performances. So let's go ahead and dive in. In this study by Bachman, O'Malley, Friedman, Doan, Trzynski, and Donnellan, Adolescent Self-Esteem, Differences by Race, Ethnicity, Gender, and Age, the participants of this study were 8th, 10th, and 12th grade students of African American, white, Hispanic, and Asian American races and ethnicities. And they were studied to determine if differences in race or ethnicity, gender, and age affected self-esteem levels. Now, this study was of particular importance to my research because it highlighted the differences in self-esteem between genders by race. These results offer a further detailed understanding of self-esteem by gender for teaching methods because race does affect gender confidence. And the results, for the most part, corroborated with other evidence presented from my research that females consistently score lower in self-esteem ratings. The second article was by Dreisen and Van Langen, titled Gender Differences in Primary and Secondary Education. Are Girls Really Outperforming Boys? Now, this article reports the results of a study that attempted to determine whether or not there is a, quote, boys problem in schools, and whether or not the gender gap is influential enough that boys are truly suffering. The study was conducted in the Netherlands, and the authors focused on a variety of factors with potential gender influences, including gender and genetic influences, social external influences, and classroom influences. The results directly contribute to my research because they address all aspects of gender biases and all potential sources of these biases. Now, because the study identified factors in each of these areas, it appears to have had much more complex and accurate results, and it took into consideration more than just teacher influences. It offers the perspective that although there are gender gaps in achievement, they do not seem to be so vast that they are a major cause for concern. But since the study was conducted in the Netherlands, it's important to consider that there may be additional differences with education in the United States. Next is the article School's Method, Let Boys Be Boys. Private Campus in Berkeley Practices Gender-Specific Teaching Techniques by Murphy. This article discusses the growing trend of single-sex classrooms in America. Using several examples of Oakland area schools that have adopted single-sex classrooms and lessons, the author reports on the benefits of separated instruction. It's relevant to my research because it identifies real-world examples of gender-separated teaching in the United States. With that being said, though, the schools reflected in the article are part of the private education sphere, and as such, have little effect on a public school atmosphere. However, regardless of if gender separation is allowed in a public school, this article shows that girls and boys do indeed respond to instruction differently. So it offers tools on how to tailor instructions to better meet the needs of all students, regardless of gender. Next is Potter, Gosling, Gebauer, Dennison, Gladorn, Arslan, and Redfro's article, Age and Gender Differences in Self-Esteem, a Cross-Cultural Window. Now, in this study, the authors aimed to identify whether or not cultural differences indicated a change in gender-specific self-esteem. Because previous research had for the most part been solely focused on Western cultures, this study aimed to analyze data from 48 separate countries, all with varying levels of socioeconomic standards and equality. Given that this article was focused on gender differences in self-esteem in general, using a selection of participants ranging from 16 to 45 years of age, it gives a helpful view of overarching differences between males and females and concludes that, generally speaking, gender differences in self-esteem are similar across all cultures. However, because of its generality, the study does lack teaching-specific tools for overcoming these gender gaps. The results are best used as a supplement to understanding the greater gender discrepancies and how early self-esteem can impact esteem in later years. And finally, we have Bredelstorff, Schwartz, Asbrock's article, Michael Can't Read, Teachers, Gender Stereotypes, and Boys Reading Self-Concept. Now, in this study, the researchers aim to determine whether teachers' gender biases affect students' reading abilities and performances. While there is much previous research on perceived gender biases in mathematics and science, this study attempted to see if the reverse was true for reading and language, since girls are stereotypically better at reading and The results indicated that teachers' gender biases did in fact affect boys' reading comprehension negatively, with little to no effect on girls. Now, it's of particular importance in that it's an analysis of teachers' direct contributions to gender stereotyping in the classroom, and it's specifically related to language and reading. This research is not widespread, so it offers a new perspective. It should be noted, though, that the research was conducted in Germany, though as a fellow Western society, it has many similar aspects to the United States. I did, however, feel that the research was not necessarily conclusive. The authors noted that while they did find correlation between increased teaching stereotypes and student performance, they were unable to prove causality. They mentioned in their discussion that there is a possibility that this link is not a direct result of stereotypes, but rather that the stereotypes may be a direct result of student performance. Now, in connecting this to my lesson plan, I decided to explore Upton Sinclair's novel, The Jungle, for 10th graders, and decided to look at immigration from the novel's times to today. As I mentioned, the lesson is geared towards 10th graders, and the learning goal is to provide learners with critical thinking skills to apply messages and themes in the jungle to issues within modern society. Using a constructivist learning theory, I aim in this lesson to have students identify immigrants' challenges in the jungle, identify modern-day immigration challenges, and form connections between elements of the literature and the present-day events. Now, in connecting this to my research, what was critical was avoiding gender biases. So in this lesson, it will aim to offer opportunities for students to participate in active discussions, both as a class and in small groups, to practice cooperation, focusing on critical thinking skills, and connecting literature to real-world dilemmas. With a focus on encouraging discussion for all students, regardless of gender, and avoiding assumptions of ability by gender, this lesson will incorporate my gender bias research and work to eliminate negative bias that I could potentially have as a teacher.